Top it like I see you point.
It's me. I'm back. Welcome to another episode of the Sussex Set. We got to get into some things. Some thang-a-langs. You feel me? What is really going on over here? I do want to talk about a couple of things that hit the news cycle like with a bang here. And it's not even about the baby, but which is sort of like the sad part, but it's just like right before the baby comes or we have news that the baby has arrived is some bullshit. Just straight up bullshit. So I do want to get into that. But in thinking about that and just like listening to or reading some of the things that people have been saying about it or the article itself, right, and how the narrative have changed and all of that has changed, I couldn't help but think about what I know about like the history of this monarchy. Just some of the things I'm sure you know, but maybe have heard or read about in passing. But bear with me for a second, because I mean, it's sort of, it's not quite. I want to draw some parallels between what we're seeing happening now and what has happened in the past. Not so distant past either, but so just kind of bear with me as I try to sort of make that connection. The English royal family, whether you know it or not, they are basically German in blood, historically. And Queen Victoria, who you may or may not know, the current queen has immense respect for, related obviously, but down the line, I think they're like four generations removed. Queen Victoria and her husband / cousin, Albert, they had German blood. Okay, so she spoke German and she married a German. 8 of her children, they ended up being married into other European families. So I'm kind of going back just kind of a little bit for backstory, but other European families, other European monarchies, okay? Many of her great-grandchildren and grandchildren, they were sitting on thrones all around Europe, in Germany and Russia, so there was sort of like a dynastic network of married cousins, okay? It's kind of nasty, but we kind of know that part of that history. Well, her grandson, Queen Victoria's grandson, who was George, and he was first cousins with the Kaiser of Germany, Wilhelm, and the Tsar of Russia, Nicholas. Okay, forget the Kaiser of Germany. Right now, I just want to kind of talk about the relationship between George and Nicholas. Okay, so at the time that the World War I broke out, there was a great anti-German sentiment in the streets, and it was just everywhere, not just in England, but like all over Europe. It's a war, it's World War I. So the most obvious link to Germany was the royal family itself. So at this time, the great institutional monarchy, many of the monarchies in Europe, they're beginning to weaken and buckle, not just due to the war, but just due to they're not being received by their people very much anymore, but obviously war sort of opens the door to many new things to kind of come about. Out of war, a lot of democracies sprung up. And so we kind of see that a little bit lesser today, but back then it was just a lot happening at one time. These countries are switching from monarchy to democracy or communism, depending on what country. So in 1917, King George, this is the grandson of Queen Victoria, okay, received news that his cousin, who was a beloved cousin, they grew up together, they were children together. If you look at side-by-side pictures of George V and the Tsar of Russia, Nicholas, they look like brothers. But they were close. They vacationed together as they got older. So his cousin had been overthrown in Russia. And so Russia originally went from being a democracy to kind of like going over into communism. It's kind of like a a world famous history lesson for most people. But this is in and of itself was a blow to the network that was kind of set up of monarchies by Queen Victoria's many like grandchildren, okay, and great grandchildren. It was a personal blow because they were cousins, and like I said, they vacationed together. They were they were close, so they were interested in what the other was doing because it could have implications for the other. So the fall of those monarchies, they presented George with a dilemma in that he's looking at himself, he's looking at the sentiment in the streets, and so I guess he's having to think about things. Okay, so the new Russian government, again, was democratic, but there were fears of a communist takeover, and that left Nicholas and his family basically hanging in the balance. At this point, the Tsar of Russia, Nicholas, sought asylum. The British ambassador at the time asked if the Romanovs, that was the family name of the Tsar of Russia, could come to Great Britain for asylum. One would think that because of how close they were, that would be a no brainer. You would give the family asylum. That after all, that's his cousin, and his children or his family. He originally granted consent that the family will eventually, sooner rather than later, come to Britain for asylum, where they were basically safe from the hell that was breaking out in their own country. But that was not the case. So he granted consent, but then he rescinded that consent because of the growing unrest. And so the Briton king, George V, decided that he wanted to renege on his previous consent, and the Romanovs were basically left to fend for themselves. The Romanovs could not come to England. So the cousin Nicholas was oblivious completely to George's secret decision to no longer provide them with refuge. Okay, well, 6 months after he decided to not provide them refuge, Russia was overtaken by the Bolsheviks. Nicholas and his family were moved to a house in Yekaterinburg, or however you say that, Yekaterinburg. And then soon after arriving there, they were taken down to the cellar and they were murdered. It was Nicholas, his wife, his 4 daughters, and his young son. And that was directly tied to the decision of George V to not allow his cousin, refuge in his country, a country he's the king of. So essentially, George, the King of England, doomed his cousin and his family to death in order for the monarchy of which he was the monarch, the head of it, to live on. In his eyes, in his view. Whether history kind of decided that what he did was right or wrong kind of remains to be unseen because you can't know what would have happened had he let him come to his country. But King George V was seen as a boring, unimaginative person. He was seen as a boring individual, unimaginative, uninspiring, and he disassociated himself in order to stay relevant. So, my question is, forget the blood, forget the murder, forget the war and all of that. But does that sound familiar? Disassociating yourself from someone else in order to stay relevant. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to be bloody murder and, something that serious. That was a unique time in that there was a lot of war happening and bombs were being dropped on England and, but this is still dealing with a monarchy, with power, with the retention of power, the desperate desire to keep power, which is to say when their survival is at stake. And it's just something to consider. When a person's survival is at stake in terms of them keeping their power, so let's say a monarch or a person who is in line for it, the word to describe them could be ruthless. So Prince George allowed his sister, who was Nicholas's sister, so who was also his first cousin, to come to England. And that name makes, what's her name, Xenia? And that name may sound familiar because she is one of the names that was floated around a lot after it was, made public that Harry and Meghan would move to Frogmore Cottage, because that's where she stayed when King George allowed her to come into the country for refuge. I'm sure he felt guilty. But yeah, so she stayed at Frogmore Cottage, and that's where she lived until she died, or she lived in England until she died. But from there, they disassociated themselves from the network of monarchs, not just, the former monarch in Russia, but any of them that were still standing over the course of Europe. I mean, over the continent of Europe, whether it was Denmark or just wherever there was a monarch. Girl, I don't know where they were, but England disassociated themselves, and that was for fear that the people of England saw them as still too German. And so at that time, they were called the House of Saxe Coburg Gotha. I think I'm saying that right, girl. I'm American. I can Google translate that shit. But I think that's how you say it. House of Saxe Coburg Gotha. Girl, whatever. But yeah, that don't sound too English, right? But while London was being bombed this whole time, the name of the bomb shells rather, had Gotha on them. So imagine being bombed, right? And your 5-year-old didn't make it out of school that day because he got bombed. And on the shell is Gotha, and that's the same name as your monarch. So, um, considering the climate in the streets, that was a dangerous idea. So, not wanting what happened to his cousin to happen to him, where they basically kill his whole family and do away with the monarch in order to establish a brand new way of governing, in order to keep what happened to his cousin from happening to him, they renamed and rebranded themselves from the House of Saxe Coburg Gotha. Saxe Coburg Gotha. I feel like I'm really butchering that. To the House of Windsor. That's the monarch that changed the name to Windsor. And until I learned that, I thought that shit was just went way, way, way back. Way back. Way, way, way back to like the fucking Tudor days and things. But no, it did not. That was in maybe less than 100 years ago, about 100 years ago. So that removed the German influence from the court altogether. Why am I telling y'all this? Okay, because seeing the news day in and day out and seeing terrible headlines about Meghan, you don't see Kensington Palace coming out to defend her the same way that they come out to defend Kate, for example. You don't see them defending Harry the same way that they defend Will. All right? And I think because of that, and it's not even just the act of defending them because of something that was said that was false. It's almost now to the point where I'm believing that they're the ones making up the shit as a way of keeping someone who was not in line to the throne from being more popular than they, if you will. Because in their mind, or let's say through the lens of history, if you're not relevant, then you're a non-factor. If you're non-factor, what do we need you for? All right. And I'm not saying I agree with that because I don't know. I'm not English. That's not my culture. But so I don't really know how people feel about, this monarch that was there from the day they were born. You know what I mean? I don't know what it's like to be an English person and to have a queen, you know what I mean? And maybe y'all can tell me without the monarch, because I know a lot of people that are left leaning. I got some friends that live in London. They're pretty left leaning and they don't feel as though, maybe left leaning is irrelevant, but they don't feel as though the monarch is needed anymore. And they don't want to do the tax paying bullshit or supporting them. But they call them, I think the word is, or the phrase is welfare, or like super rich welfare recipients or some shit like that. They kind of call our politicians that too over here. But I'm starting to believe that some of these rumors are germinating inside the palace. And I mean, they're just outright lies. And so I have felt very early on though that Will and Kate were in fear of being overshadowed. And maybe in the beginning it was, oh, that's great. Finally, we don't have the attention on us. My God, we can live normal lives. And it was a relief. But then It went away. That feeling went away when you realized that nobody really did give a fuck about you to begin with. But you were all that was there. So they just decided to put up with you, kind of, you know? But I just think that if it is coming from them, it's very short sighted because I think the internet does a really good job at keeping receipts, you know? And so, given that the affection for Meghan is real, it's not that it's a bandwagon type thing, and it kind of is some bandwagoning, but she's kind of a public figure. So, if you want to like her, like her. But the affection for Harry is also real. Harry was the baby boy, and everybody saw him walking behind his mom's casket. That's when I first knew Harry existed, was a funeral, because I didn't know very much about Princess Diana. I was a teenager. I was a young teenager when that happened. So um, I only saw it because everybody else was watching it. But I did notice how short Harry was compared to all the other men walking behind his mom's casket. You know, his brother was a teenager too, but he was as tall as his dad, and Harry was the baby. You know, and you could see him lowering his head, and he didn't really want to be there, and it was just I couldn't imagine losing my mom. And so that's where the world loved Harry. That's what they loved, both of them, but Harry, it's just something about the baby, you know. If you're trying to shoot him down and you're trying to, cut him down in the beginning of his real trajectory is not just a royal, but as someone who is in a position to do a lot of good, not just for the monarchy, but for millions of people everywhere that are a part of the Commonwealth, and you're trying to cut them down because you're feeling real insecure and jealous. Like, how sad does that look? That's why I feel like it's short sighted, because you end up shooting yourself in the foot, and nobody recognizes you for the good that you do. People look at you and recognize you for your pettiness. And they see, then that goes back to all the petty motherfucking kings and queens. Well, I would just say kings, because most of the kings been petty. I will say this, most of the women who have led England as monarch been on their shit, according to what I know. And y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. But the men are the ones who are fucking batshit crazy and petty as fuck. Really, I mean, so people are gonna remember him for that. If anything happens in the way of the people feeling like Harry and Meghan are being deliberately sidelined and not allowing the natural course of things to play out, which is, I think, what everyone sort of feels entitled to. Because, yeah, we do want to see what they can do um, without the feeling that somebody is just lurking in the bushes waiting to try to, take them out. So you already have a lot of people who feel like there's no need for a monarchy in 2019. We love the Queen of England. I love Elizabeth, yes, but still, like, what do they do? She ain't really got no power. She's the leader of the forces, armed forces, or any monarch, whatever their gender is, but she's supposed to be apolitical. You know what I mean? They just don't have the power that they used to. Monarchs anywhere, so I think in abusing Harry and Meghan, you kind of highlight the fact that, well, wait, we don't even need your ass. So you better, you know what I'm saying? Like, watch your step and be careful with what you're doing. So that's kind of like why I feel like he sort of shoots himself in the foot. But I think the majority of nations in Europe, they currently have democracies. And so, and you add to the fact that the sixth in line to the throne and the wife of the sixth in line to the throne, they both highlight why you are not needed by the work that they do. You know, they hit the ground running, literally. Sis worked her whole pregnancy. And then when she went on maternity leave, your wife went on maternity leave. You know? So are you needed? Are you needed? Y'all are still learning everything. Everywhere y'all go, y'all still learning about things. You're learning about costumes. You're learning about, brain cells and research, and wherever you go, wherever you're doing, you're learning about national security. You're learning about how gardens grow. You're learning about, girl, you name it. Y'all learning. 8 years of learning, though. What y'all doing, though? Well, like, what are y'all doing? So, seeing that Harry and Meghan are doers, and no shade to the Cambridges now. I'm really just speaking facts. I'm not really trying to shade nobody. Bitch, I'm speaking facts because we got somebody to compare them to now. We didn't have that before when Harry was the third wheel. Just saying. So, of course, you want to preserve yourself, but you're playing defense. You're not doing it in a way that says, I want to show the whole world how great of a king I'm going to be. I want to show the whole world what me and my wife are doing with this platform and how we're going to show our kids how to do the same when they become our age and they're in line to the throne too. You're not doing any of that. You're playing defense. You're trying to cut somebody else down without building yourself up. And Harry, on the other hand, is playing offense because he actually cares about the things that he's doing. He doesn't even care about his popularity. He probably wishes he wasn't as popular as he was so he could be a little bit more normal, but he's trying to be as normal as he can given what he was born into. But he's doing it not for himself, but for the good of other people. And so when I see someone trying to cut that down, or I feel like allegedly they're like trying to cut that down, I lose whatever little shred of respect I have for you. I will say this, the article that did come out, I will say take it with a grain of salt. Just based on the track record of a lot of these reporters, they say things just to get clicks. They put them out there just to get clicks. But you kind of do see something that a lot of things that point to the fact that there is some truth to it because the story has changed. It's changed since it even just came out. It ain't even been 48 hours. There are signs that the desire to exile them due to their popularity is true just based on what we've seen in the past. Harry went from being a media darling, right, before Meghan, to being a man who supposedly raged over a tiara. Really, says? Like, Meghan went from being a lovely bride, everybody basically loved everything about both of them on the day they got married, to like a hurricane and a diva, who pals around with terrorists, mind you. Oh, they spend way too much money. Oh, they're attention seeking. Oh, they want to be celebrities. And it's like none of that will work. And all the while, Harry and Meghan are just getting more and more popular. And clearly the Queen has faith in them. You know what I mean? But more and more heat is coming down on Meghan in particular, which is baffling. But of course, then we found out that Will got found playing in the rose garden, if I can put it to you that way. Okay, so even that, which had absolutely nothing to do with Meghan, was pinned on Meghan, like the fact that that leaked out to the press. And what I'm talking about is Will's affair. Okay, because let's just go ahead and put it out there. Alleged affair. But the reaction shows that it's probably true. But that had absolutely nothing to do with Meghan. Yet, you have an effort to pin it on her. To pin it on her. Why? Because she's an easy target. She's low-hanging fruit. You know? Meghan has time to give a fuck about where Billy is dipping his wig. I don't believe she does. Doesn't look like she does. She cares about where he puts his dick. Meghan cares about wanting to outshine Kate. I absolutely think the fuck not. By the way, Meghan don't really have to work hard to do that. And no shade to Kate, girl, but you a dud. You're a dud. You're a dud. No shade to you. I'm sorry. By definition, that's shade. Kate doesn't do much. Kate is on maternity leave with Meghan. It doesn't take very much for a person with charisma to outshine a person with none, or very little, very little. To the point that we see Kate sort of being inspired by, okay, let's say that, being inspired by Meghan's entry into the family. And that's fine too, because she has inspired me too. But I don't live on the same grounds as her, so it's not to make this some weird competition, but see, it didn't become a competition, quote unquote, until the Cambridges and those who, let's say Kensington Palace, those who don't do anything to defend Harry and Meghan, but they come out of the woodwork to defend Kate and Will. That's what made this some weird, twisted competition. And it's only a competition in y'all's mind because y'all are the ones who were choosing to not work together with them. Y'all are better together. The two couples are better together. But y'all you do is seek to vilify Meghan. Oh, first Kate made, she made Kate cry. Oh, she's a big, bully from America. She's African American too. She's an African American bully. Bullying our future queen. You know? You made that a thing. And which it really wasn't a thing. It was a lie, probably, or maybe she was kind of like I said about something else. You make Harry out to be some angry ass man who's going berserk over anybody who even looks at Meghan wrong. So I think all of that is coming from that household. I'm sorry, but let's just look at it for what it is. It's fishy as fuck. It's fishy. Meghan doesn't have time to care about what's happening in some rural part of England. She's not even from England. What does she know about any of it? How is she going to know the inner workings of Kate and Will's social circles at a certain geographic location that's outside of London? Why is she going to even care? But y'all had the press to yourself for a whole 7 years before Meghan even came into the picture, before she even started dating Harry. Y'all had the press to yourself, but what did y'all do? Y'all rested on your laurels. Y'all rested on your laurels. You didn't do work. You didn't come out and show people that you cared about anything in particular. Y'all did what y'all thought y'all was supposed to do, which, okay, maybe you did, and there was a learning curve, but damn, 7 years? It took y'all 7 years to care about what the public thought about y'all? You know what I mean? You can only go so far in making your appearances about your clothes. And not saying that anybody did that deliberately, but okay, but what are you doing? Like, what are you about? Especially coming behind, I should say, Princess Diana. And I'm not saying she was perfect. I wouldn't consider myself a Princess Diana stan, but I do respect the work that she did, and I respect the love that people had for her because that was genuine. So it's not like Kate didn't have a blueprint. And it's not like Meghan, because people love her, and that much is obvious. It's not like she's trying to be like Diana. It's simply that Meghan has beliefs and she has standards for herself. She has things that she cares about. And Kate, I can't say she's making it obvious to me. I can't say that she doesn't because I don't know her mind, but she ain't making it quite obvious to me. Will is not making it obvious to me. But you know who made it obvious to me before I even, knew who Meghan was? Is Harry. Harry created Sentebale at 19 years old. And I knew about Sentebale. I knew about his work in Africa. I knew about just the way that the kids responded to him. All those old video clips you've seen kind of rotating around since he's got married. I've seen all of that because by then I knew who he was. And I can tell that he cares. You can even just go back to see how he interacted with people. He cares. And it's not because his mama cared. It's because, okay, maybe he has some of that from his mom, but it's because he cares. And of course he does want to continue in her legacy. But, now y'all are feeling overshadowed though. Y'all meaning, obviously, Harry's brother and Harry's sister-in-law, y'all feeling overshadowed by people who just came in to do the actual work that y'all said that y'all were going to do. And then, you had the press on your side too, because they had a new person to beat up on, Meghan, mostly. And then I noticed what they did was they made the news about Kate and Will automatically good news. It was all, except for that Rose story. Everything else about Kate and Will was great. Oh, the future king and queen of England. Yes, they're such a great representative. And oh, Kate, yeah, she's an English rose, which is racially charged because that's a racially charged put down of Meghan. Not to say that anybody should be offended by that, but an English rose is usually, it's not talking about black women who were born in England. All right. It ain't talking about brown women born in England. It's talking about white women born in England, usually from a certain class. So let's say Kate's background. Oh, she's just an English rose and she's going to be the future queen. And yeah, that's true. But you're not putting Meghan down by that because she doesn't care about it, but you think you are. And that's the nasty part. Before, it was said about Will and Kate that, and this is a quote, that there wasn't one personality to be found between the two of them. And you tell me why that is. You tell me why somebody wrote that. But then that was before Meghan came into the picture. Now they're so, I don't really even know that people call them interesting, but they're not saying that type of stuff about them, you know? But now, it's just like it's a problem that sis is in the family. She ain't getting nothing but bad news. So I don't see how that's a problem for you. It seems like it ought to be a welcome turn of events, that all the news about you is at least neutral and all the news about her is bad. Seems like y'all will be happy, but you know what? You're not happy about that. Why? Because you can sense that the love for you is fake love. It's fake. You got a bunch of Brexiters. You got a bunch of MAGA bitches over here in America who just hate the fact that Harry didn't pick a white American girl. So a lot of them accounts come from America. But then you got a lot of Brexit type bitches over in England who, they hate Meghan for the same reasons. And they hate Harry for the same reasons. They resent them and their love, right? But so the love for you is fake. And the hate for them is also fake. It's not really based on anything that they've done. And the love for you ain't based on anything that you've done. Right? So there's a sense that I think there's just something in that mentally that people won't be able to overcome, that actually hate Meghan for the wrong reasons or love, Will and Kate for the wrong reasons. But that can only last so long, and their stock is still going to go up. Because if they were such bad people and everybody believed all the things that they said, Oprah wouldn't work with them. George Clooney wouldn't defend them. I've heard everybody from Shonda Rhimes to, Gayle King. Adele loves them. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, Will talking about people didn't want to work with his effort, his event or his push for whatever event that he was doing. He couldn't find celebrities. Well, maybe it's you, bro. Much of a stretch to convince yourself, and others have to convince you that their presence makes yours totally irrelevant. And so, well, maybe not totally, because you still have a function. You're going to be the king and queen of England, right? But like, their presence makes you realize that you need to do more, and that makes you uncomfortable. And that's a shame. That's a shame. So that brings us to where we are now. So therefore, they should go to Africa. How, Sway? How? Why? How? Okay, the thing that I read said that I don't know who these sources are. Obviously, they're anonymous, but somebody attributed to a guy who's supposed to be Harry's friend. But you take them out of England and you move them to somewhere in Africa because, supposedly, they love Africa, which I'm sure they do. But they should want to go there, right? Because we don't want to make them go to Canada or the U.S. because, everybody loves him over there, and if you make him the general, the commander general or whatever it is of another country, of Australia, they're essentially the king and the queen, and we can't have that because they're going to be a more popular king and queen. They're already going to be king and queen. You ain't even king and queen yet. Oh, whatever. It's just so stupid that okay, so they decided on Africa because why? It's like they got internet in Africa, right? They got like Skype and all of that in Africa, right? They got cameras and all of this in Africa, right? So it's just like it doesn't matter where they go. People are still going to want to know what the fuck they're doing. They want to know what they're up to. They want to know what their time and attention is, being given to. But it's just kind of unfortunate that all signs point to this coming from Will. And the articles about the possible Africa move just sort of keeps changing. At first it was, we want to move them to Africa. Then it was, they want to go to Africa, and it's just so weird. It's weird to be that threatened. It's weird to be that insecure about your baby brother. One would think that you're supposed to kind of like protect your brother, especially if you're the older, right? But now you're all up in your feelings about it. So, but my question is, why would they go to Africa? Let's say, you're going with the idea that it's their desire. Why would they go there though? They said 2020. Why would they go to Africa when they just got a brand new baby? and they just moved into a brand new house that they spent some of their own money on renovating. Why would they do that? Like, what sense would that make? And even the woman who wrote the article edited tweets about the angle of the article, and KP never denied it. They never denied the fact that this story had any kind of legs to it. But of course, if it was somebody else in the royal family, they would be out swift like that bitch. Didn't what's his name? Will talking about he want to sue somebody for violating his human rights? What human right was that? Not going balls deep in a bitch? But you came out real swift about it. So KP is not doing that. And, she just, I don't know, it's just really weird that the person who broke the story even edited that. So KP probably says to her, oh, that's not how we're approaching it. Change the way that you're saying that. And surely she did. And of course, nowadays, at this point, it's only been like a couple of days. America has the story. American outlets, so they're talking about the story. I even saw it on CBS, and Gail was talking about it. But all because Big Willie, allegedly, okay, he wants to put all of his insecurities out there on the table. Again, y'all had 7 or 8 years to win the hearts of the people in your country, and well, you didn't do that. But what they did do is they leveraged Harry's work ethic. They leveraged his ideas during that time. Instead of earning their own love. Because you got to remember, Harry's the most popular royal, even above the Queen. This was before he even got married, So they leveraged his popularity. And I think that just kind of spilled on to them. And if you look in hindsight, I'm a person who is a royal watcher now, but really I'm a Sussex watcher. I ain't watching all them other folks. Because I don't care about them, and I never did. No tea, no shade. I just never did. But I never had any reason to dislike any of them either. But now I do, now that I'm paying attention. So they use Harry's youthful personality. They use his energy. They use his good looks. They use his ideas. They use the affection that people have for him. And they basically basked in it until they had to do it on their own, because when Harry got married, all of that, baby, that became the Sussex, the Sussex swag, if you will. His combined with Meghan's, and she has her own. See, now they don't know what to do without it. Think about it. They don't know what to do without that, because it was snatched away just like that. And Harry became a villain, just right alongside his wife. They claim some of his ideas as their own, or the ideas of all three of them, to fit under the royal foundation. Like I said, he created Bali when he was 19. But in hindsight, I feel like he created Heads Together. I feel like it was his idea. Because who comes out and talks about mental health? Not just as a soundbite, but in a way that you can tell that it's urgent for him. He's talked about his own mental health. That's not something I've seen Will do. He's talked about how and maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe Will not talking about that is less to do with personality and more to do with the fact that he will be king. Therefore, he needs to put out an image that says that he has a strong mind and he's big and he's brave and all of that. So maybe it is a little bit touchy to talk about his mental health. But Harry never shied away from that. Kate has talked about postpartum depression, so I know that they've talked about it. But everybody has mental health hiccups in life, some deeper than others. But Harry's been urgent about it. He talked about mental health with Barack Obama on multiple occasions. One was on a podcast. I can't remember the podcast, but it was a whole hour-long segment where they interviewed, or I think Barack interviewed Harry, or Harry interviewed Barack. But so anyway, Heads Together just feels like, let's just say it feels like it was more of Harry's idea, but I don't know that. I can't confirm that. That's just what I feel. Harry being married, he's, again, keeping all of that basically under his own larger umbrella, especially as he has more responsibilities that he's taking on from a lot of them from the queen herself. Um, and the Cambridges just were not ready to lose that. And it's sad because they're the older, like they're the older couple. I guess not really. They're all in the same age group, but they're older than Harry. Harry was the baby of the group, and then Meghan came, and now she's the oldest person in age, oldest person. But anyway, Harry's very impressive individually. Meghan's impressive individually. Together, though, it's like they look to be an unstoppable force, and that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. And it seems like it shouldn't. Seems like that's something everybody ought to get behind. But you never know who's watching you, and you never know who wants to take you down a couple of notches because they don't want to put in the work. They don't want to put in the effort that seems to come naturally for you. So that's why that really just kind of ticks me off a little bit because it's like there's nothing worse than trying to dim somebody's light, bitch. Dimming somebody's light won't make yours shine no brighter. It just makes the room darker. You know, bitch, get your watts up, get your shine on. You know what I mean? But it just get the sense that they want them out of the way. And if all of this is the case, and let's say that they do go to Africa, Will shoots himself in the foot. He shoots himself in the foot. Um, Even for people that don't care so much about him, it's going to be hard to gain goodwill with people when, again, their affection for Harry is so great that they might even take it as a slight to them that you did your own baby brother like that. Whether it hurts them or not, I just don't see that hurting them. But the fact that you trying to take this man out of his own country, hold up, like you could chill on that. That's just what I feel. That's what I would feel if I was English, though. And I just think people can see through it, and I don't think they forgive as easily. You know, and of course the respect has to be thrown out the window. Um, but Will and Kate, you know, if it is true, it doesn't make you look better. So, but my question is, why are the Cambridges so mad? All y'all had to do was work. KP, why y'all so mad? All y'all had to do was make your people, make your future king and future queen somebody that the people wanted to get behind. Somebody that people didn't just ignore when new blood came into the family. You know what I mean? Like it's just so weird to see grown folks who got lives, they got children, they got a whole path ahead of them this insecure. You know? When Meghan went on maternity leave, Catherine went on leave. Sis took a whole break. Really, Will did too. Um, like I just don't get it. 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 Like she went missing in action. Will went missing in action. But my guess is as soon as the Cambridges are, I mean, as soon as the Sussexes are hitting it hard again, right? Well, then the Cambridges are going to hit hard again too. And it just seems like a petty fucking game. And if I cared about the face of the monarchy and if I cared about the work that these people did in a country where my tax dollars are being used, that would annoy the fuck out of me. I'm sorry, that would annoy the fuck out of me. So Africa, yeah. Why would they go to Africa? Why would they go to Africa? It just feels fishy. But my question is, why are the Cambridges so mad? All y'all had to do was work. KP, why y'all so mad? All y'all had to do was make your people, make your future king and future queen somebody that the people wanted to get behind. Somebody that people didn't just ignore when new blood came into the family. You know what I mean? Like it's just so weird to see grown folks who got lives, they got children, they got a whole path ahead of them this insecure. You know? When Meghan went on maternity leave, Catherine went on leave. Sis took a whole break. Really, Will did too. Um, like, I just don't get it. 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 Like, she went missing in action. Will went missing in action. But my guess is as soon as the Cambridges are, I mean, as soon as the Sussexes are hitting it hard again, right? Well, then the Cambridges are going to hit it hard again too. And it just seems like a petty fucking game. And if I cared about the face of the monarchy, and if I cared about the work that these people did in a country where my tax dollars are being used, that would annoy the fuck out of me. I'm sorry, that would annoy the fuck out of me. So Africa, yeah. Why would they go to Africa? Why would they go to Africa? It just feels fishy. But my advice, not to say they're asking for it, girl, but my advice to Bill and Katniss, girl, is to do better. Be better. And in the words of my first lady, current first lady, girl, be best. Be best. And instead of protecting your baby brother, you're trying to throw him and his family out to the wolves. Some brother, allegedly, okay, allegedly. It's very sad that information came out before the baby was born. Days before the baby was born, you're taking the focus off of the woman of the hour who's having your fucking niece or nephew. You know, Meghan and Harry definitely deserve better. I think if you want to preserve the monarchy, all you got to do is stop being lazy as fuck. Get off of your ass and fucking care. But the problem is you don't care about the fucking people that you out there on the streets with. When they show up, the 10 people that show up to your engagements, you don't care about them fucking people and they can feel it. On the other hand, when you see video, you can watch a video of Harry having somebody or shaking somebody's hand, talking to them. You feel his aura. Like, you feel that he cares about the people he's talking to, and that makes all the difference. You can tell that you don't care. But all you got to do is try to find a way to care, nigga, and stop being lazy. That's how you're going to preserve the monarchy, but you're not going to preserve it playing defense. You ain't going to preserve it cutting your own brother down. Stop allegedly cheating on your lazy-ass wife and teach your kids to treat each other better than you treat your brother. Because y'all got a few more folks, I think, just because of how the global climate is, y'all have a few more monarchs in you, I think, before the people of England decide, nah, this shit ain't for us. We done with it. The culture ain't on your side. I don't believe history is on your side. And what you're doing now is a losing strategy. So I hope y'all get that shit together. Come out with a new strategy, sis. Meghan finna give y'all a couple of months when she have her baby just to be a new mom. And in this few little months, sis, y'all need to get y'all life together, come out with a new strategy that don't involve cutting nobody down, and decide how y'all are going to lead the country. Because eventually you will. Moving on, girl. On to some other news. Doria's in England. So that means either baby Sussex is here, girl, or very close to being born. I read somewhere that, well, at first, actually, I thought that Doria would move to England just because, she only has one child and this is her first grandchild and her child lives so far away from her. It's not like Doria lives in New York and she can just hop on a plane and be there in 6 hours. She lives way on the other side of this big ass country, so it's a very long way away. I thought that she would move to London, even just say for a year or two. But turns out she's going to go back. So I don't know how long she'll stay, but she will go back because she does like her job. She's a social worker and also a yoga instructor. And why should she give, she's a young lady too. So why would she give up her life just to basically be a living grandma, And of course, she wants to have her daughter be surrounded by allies. And of course, if she has to be one, I'm sure she would be. But that to me says a lot about Doria, that she has so much faith in her daughter and who her daughter married, that Meghan can more than hold her own without having her mom there to be a shoulder to cry on. That to me, honey, that to me is why I respect Doria Ragland. I respect her and why I respect Meghan, but she doesn't feel the need to be there because Meghan has it. And Harry has it, She's a woman of the world. But if she wanted to stay, as soon as she lays eyes on her grandbaby, I cannot blame her because I'm pretty sure at any point it's going to be hard for her to leave, especially leaving her one child and her one grandchild. So I respect Mama Doria's decision, and I really hope baby Sussex hurry up and come on because I'm like, whoo, child. It's the weight is really stressing me out just a tiny bit because, I don't know. I miss them. But I hope Doria's over there setting them motherfuckers straight. But all in all, I love that they're private people. They're not attention seeking. I love that they don't follow in the footsteps of other people no matter what. I'm glad that she didn't do the Lindo wing. I'm glad that she didn't, feel that pressure and give in because it's her body, it's her birth. You only get to be a mom for the first time one time. So it's important, especially the fact that they're the sixth in line for the throne. Why you care so much about my baby? You just said that I was going to be irrelevant in a couple of months. So get off my dick. But I like the fact that they still went with the birth plan that they wanted to go with. And I love that they're taking their time to enjoy the birth of their child, the new family that they have, and to have Doria there with them enjoying that. Again, baby Sussex has one grandmother. Harry's not going to get to share this moment with his mom. So the closest thing he has to that is his wife's mom. And I'm glad that they're going to be able to do that without the prying eyes of the camera, and certainly not having to worry about doing that hours after Meghan has pushed this child out of her body. Go Meghan. So with that being said, baby Sussex is close. I'm still in the twins camp. I don't care. The last time I saw Meghan, she was pretty big, and that was over a month ago. So, I mean, talking about if they break the internet with twins, but I think it's one, but I would be glad with two. Not to say that that's what they're trying to do, but you have what you have. Ask Beyonce. She ain't expect twins. But anyway, that's all I have for today, y'all. Send your comments and questions to sussexsquad@gmail.com. That's one word. Just say what's up. You know what I mean? Leave a 5-star review on iTunes or share this podcast with somebody that might be interested. And just know that would mean the world to me, though, because I think it's important to have as many pro-Sussex voices out there. I think a review would help that. Also hit me up on Twitter and IG at Sussex Squad, and make sure, of course, you keep donating to through the Global Sussex Baby Shower that's going on up and through May. So I think that I want to highlight a charity. I want to highlight CamFed, which is the Campaign for Female Education. You can find them at camfed.org. Currently, they are pushing to grow 1,000 female-led businesses. I was going to go to the hood and say businesses. Okay, they want to grow 1,000 female-led businesses. And the first 1,000 agricultural entrepreneurs will be equipped to launch their businesses using climate-smart technologies, building their resilience to climatic changes. And that's important because these changes are happening faster than I could have ever imagined. It costs 125 pounds per young woman farmer to get that start. And CamFed is working to raise 125,000 pounds by 2020. Okay, so 125 pounds is a very small sum for something that creates something so big and with so many implications now and very far into the future. So that is more than possible if you ask me. So consider donating. And these are not people looking for handouts either. It's a hand up, and it's a beautiful thing to see. So far, they've raised enough to start off 13 of the 1,000 businesses that they want to. And that's 13 women empowering their communities. Please see what they're doing, and please donate if you can. Every little bit counts towards the greater good. So thank you all for listening. Thank you for being the absolute fucking best fandom there ever was. I feel blessed to be a part of it. And keep shining your light. Only you can live your truth, and the world is darker without it. So always remember that. Peace.
I'm a bad bitch. You can't kill me.